Hope you're okay. You let me know that you can hear me okay as well. That'd be great. Hopefully, we'll get a few others in tonight. That would be really nice if we can. Did you enjoy your holiday up in these parts? Did you get to go to all the National Trust places you wanted to see? Hey, Terry. Perfect. So I'll just wait for a minute. Hi, Matthew. How are you? We'll just wait for another minute or so, just to see if anybody else is jumping in. As always, people jump in and out. Hi, Annette. Good. I'm glad you had a nice time. I'm so sorry I couldn't get to meet you when you were up here, which seems a crying shame, but with all the holiday stuff, it was really crazy. Hi, Ronnie. I've had a very exciting week this week, which I'll tell you about in a moment. And yeah, it's going to be a bit special. I've got some special things in the pipeline for you all. Right. Let's get started, shall we? I think that'd be a good idea. So, before we get started, really exciting week. I did take a trip down to London this week, and um, I just so happen to be going past Battersea Power Station, and managed to take in the Ramses II, or Ramses the Great exhibition that is being hosted at Battersea Power Station. I see no body cast from ski school. No, you don't actually. I'll go. So yes, I had a fabulous time skiing. I never thought I would ever say that in a sentence, like in my whole entire life, because I always vowed. I was quite adamant when I was a child that I was never going to ski because it was so dangerous. Says the lady that did horse riding and lots of different active things. Uh, but I have to say, I really enjoyed it. I managed to adopt the nickname Pingu while I was away because I do look like a bit of a penguin on skis. But I'll take that. I'll take that. At least it's from a snowy environment. But no, I took to it really well, and I promised myself that I will be doing ski lessons here in the UK because we've actually booked to go back to Meyerhofen next year at the same time, exactly the same time, because we have like a group of like 20 of us that all meet up and go out together. So it's a really nice social thing, and also we've got some fabulous people that we get to spend time with. So. I would like to get better at it, obviously. And it was really good. So I had a fabulous time. So thank you very much for asking. And yeah, who knew? Who knew the Egyptian could actually become a skier? But there you go. Maybe I'll post the videos one day, but just not yet because they're still quite cringy. So back to this week. So yes, I had the fortune to go and visit the Ramses the Great exhibition in London. At Battersea Power Station, over 180 artifacts, not just of Ramses II either. I got very, very excited and had to take a bit of a sit down, natural phone to my friend Paula, because I needed to tell someone right there and then that my favourite pharaoh, a female pharaoh, Tausseret, had two pieces actually on display, and I was really, really excited. Hi, Bridget. So because I've never seen anything like I've seen her cartouche in a tomb, and I've also seen her cartouche on a piece of wall, if you like, that is in the Petrie Museum, but I've never seen anything else. So actually, and I know Wendy, you're going, aren't you, next week? I believe is it to the same exhibition. Look out for the jewellery there. So there's earrings which are absolutely fabulous, and then there's a little scarab ring, and it was so amazing to see them. And I was just like, I literally spent about 20 minutes just staring at these things, thinking this is absolutely incredible. You know, this is the one pharaoh that I've been chasing for years, and like, there's something for her there, which was amazing. So it was worth it just for that. It was a little bit pricey, I have to say. It cost me £32 sterling to get in. And there was really only 180 pieces, but it was still very good. But the funny thing about it was, because these pieces are from Egypt, most of the security were actually Egyptian, which was quite funny. So yeah, it was really, really good. And there's a lovely little gift shop, and somebody said to me, would you like to buy a mug of Ramses? And I was like, no, but thanks. If you have a Telstra one, I'll take that. But if it's Ramses, then yeah, I'm okay, thank you. But no, it was very, very good. So I have lots of video, and I literally photographed every single piece. And I'm not kidding when I say that. I photographed every single piece. So I will be putting a video together for that. And also today, I was very cheeky. I was in Bristol today, and in my lunch hour, I decided to go and have a quick sneaky peek around Bristol Museum as well. And they've got some very lovely little artifacts in there as well. It's not a massive display, but there was enough in there for me to take lots of video of. Lots of children's toys and a little child's outfit as well, which was beautiful. So I do have some video coming there. So what I'm planning on doing is, for my subscribers, because I know some of you are my subscribers, I'm going to let you have a first peek of those videos, and going forward, anything special like that will be specifically for you guys first, and then I'll release it to onto my YouTube channel a bit later on. But I also do have some video from the Louvre in Paris as well, which was brought to me by the lovely Paula O'Toole, and I'll be compiling a video of that together as well. So I have literally 3 collections that I can bring to you. So it's very exciting, and my collection of Egyptology is growing, even though we are outside Egypt. But I'm hoping to get some more video from inside Egypt as well soon too. So keep posted, and we will get going with that. But tonight, back to tonight, what are we doing? We are doing the temples of Egypt. Temples of Egypt, when I say temples of Egypt, we have lots. They were the houses of the gods, and it was a chance for Pharaoh to basically tell everybody how amazing he was, or tell the gods how amazing he or she was, and also to for offerings and things like that. So the one we're going to go back to is where it all started for me in the beginning. I think it was the very first temple I actually brought to you guys, and this is Karnak Temple, one of the biggest and most complete temples with the original stonework and everything in Egypt today. So let us begin. So let's go over to the actual temple itself. Here it is. And hi, hi Cheryl, how are you? So here we go. So we are starting at the entrance. So this is the entrance walking into the temple. So we're going to start at the quayside, and then we're going to walk down the Avenue of Sphinxes, and then make our way through to the back of the temple. So here we go. Do tell me if there's any other sound or anything apart from my voice. Hopefully I've muted myself, but we'll get going anyway. So we are coming into the quayside. Now the quayside here was excavated about 15 years ago, and it was discovered that it was the quayside that was made by Seti II. Seti II was actually Tauseret's husband, actually, and it means that we can prove that the Nile actually ran right up to the entrance of the temple. Over in the distance there, I'll just stop the video as we go along. Over in the distance, you might just be able to make out the West Bank mountains. Is the Karnak or Luxor that is designed like a human body? That would be Luxor Temple, Matthew. But then again, we're not sure whether it is like as a human body, or it's just the way the axis is done because of the, you know, we do everything to the constellations. So we shall see. It's still, you know, we're still discovering, aren't we? Still figuring that out. So literally just where the line of trees ends is a main road, and the other side of that main road is the River Nile. So it's still very close today, but it's obviously not as close as it used to be. So this quayside that we are seeing here, or momentarily we shall see, it was actually designed by Seti II. And you can see the ramps that lead up to the temple itself. And you can just imagine that, pharaohs actually put their gilded sandals on to this quayside. It's incredible. You've got a little mosque there and some later additions, but most of this is to do with Seti II. Roman baths, actually, I'm not sure if we swing around the other side, I can't remember, but if we do, Roman baths were actually discovered as well. So the Romans actually added to the temple as also later on in history, and they've been excavating those over the last few years. So it'd be interesting to see what's happened and what's changed actually in Karnak since I was there 3 years ago. But I will be going back soon, so I'll keep you posted on my movements of that as well. So as we go down, then we are entering the Avenue of Sphinxes. The Avenue of Sphinxes, these are actually from the time of Ramses II, or as he likes to call himself, Ramses the Great. And these Sphinxes, we believe that they possibly aren't in their original place now, and they would have been on the inside of the temple. We're still not 100% sure. Some say yes, they are supposed to be here. Some say not. But again, we're not entirely sure. You can see that they have the body of a lion and the head of a ram, but we'll talk about those a little bit as we get a bit closer. And then you have the first doorway, or the first pylon. The pylons are over 30 meters high, and can you see those cut-out grooves in the actual stone walling itself, and then you've got 2 holes above. Now, these are actually for flagpoles, okay? So they would have been flying the standards of the temple. We believe that it could have been possibly like, if the queen's in or the queen's out, the god's in, the god's out, that kind of thing. And it was the 2 holes at the top were actually possibly to help change the flags if need be, or, to help secure the flags in place, because those flagpoles would have been really, really high. And the flagpoles would have been made out of cedar wood as well. So you can see quite clearly here, you've got the Sphinxes, as I said, with the ram head and the lion body. Now this actually, and then you've got the figure of Pharaoh actually between his paws. So this is basically Pharaoh saying, I'm uniting North and South, or Upper and Lower Egypt. Okay, so the ram and the ram is a signifies Upper Egypt, which is the south of the country, and the lion, the north of the country. So Upper and Lower Egypt. So it's kind of saying that during Ramses' time, he had duality, he had peace between north and south, because there was often a divide between the two, with like a couple of pharaohs ruling at the same time. This happened in history. So this is Ramses saying he had actually there was peace between the two, and he was ruling over north and south, or Upper and Lower Egypt. And that's a figure of Ramses there as well. Now, I don't know if you can see it. You might be able to see it a little bit clearer on this one. Can you see on the left-hand side of your screen, you've got the Sphinx there, and then halfway down his body, there looks like a little carving there, possibly. Now, actually, the one interesting thing is each of these Sphinx has a different little carving on. And an Egyptologist actually mentioned to me a few years back that they believe this is the name of the Sphinx. And each Sphinx has its own name, which is quite, which makes sense. But when you say the names, it actually means the name of the god Amun anyway. So it's kind of like you're chanting as you're going down. So I think that's quite, it's not been proven, but also it's not been disproven. So I do think that's quite amazing. Now, when we go through, we're going to have to go through the ticket office in a moment. Or where they stamp my ticket or take a bit of it away. But that is the original doorway. Now, if you stand just above there, like on the ramp during the winter solstice, you'll see right the little doorway at the very bottom of the temple there. That's where the sun rises up through that doorway, up onto the top of that little temple part, or the Holy of Holies, and out of the temple. Now, this temple is dedicated to the god Amun, which was a sun god, so it makes perfect sense that that would happen. But look at those bricks. I mean, these were all, a lot of the stonework here was actually quarried from Gibel Silsila. Sorry, I forgot there. Bit of a brain moment there. Gibel Silsila, which is to the south of Luxor and would have been brought up by boat. The sphinxes we know were definitely, some of them were carved there, because they've actually found, Maria Nielsen has actually found the statues, some statues that have been left in situ, which is quite amazing. Aren't these doorways? They're amazingly wide, and they would have held these magnificent cedar wood doors. Magnificent cedar wood doors that would have been gilded, and would have been quite an impressive thing to see. If you want like an example of that, actually, if you go to the British Museum, in London, you will get to see, I think it's an Iranian, it could be from Iraq, Iran or Iraq, I'm not quite sure which one now, and that actually shows you what these doors could possibly have looked like. Now, on the inside of here, now a lot of people say to me, oh, why didn't they clear all this brickwork away? Well, we'll get into that in a moment, but it is very, very important. So if you have a good look at it, this is actually mud brick, and this mud brick is about 2,000 years old. Do you think through excavation there will be more treasures found in the future? Absolutely, Cheryl. Absolutely, 110%, 100 million% actually. And I'll tell you for why when we get to the other sphinxes in a minute. So this was actually done by Nectanebo. He actually built these. So Nectanebo was a pharaoh in the later years, on the 20th dynasties, and funnily enough, he's the one that has the head of the Sphinx's Avenue. He's the head of the human body with the lion, human head with the lion body, and it was him that actually built this particular pylon. And then you have that lovely, well, we call it a kiosk actually, but it's like a pylon there with a lotus flower, and that was actually originally built by the pharaoh Taharqa. He was from Nubia, I believe. Now you can see the sphinxes here. There's there's about 22 smaller temples within this massive temple, okay, and this is actually set in over 60 acres of land that is still standing today, but they do believe back in history it would have been over 200 acres. Now, why is this mud brick important? Well, the reason why it is so important is this shows us exactly how those pylons were made. Okay, or how they were built, should I say, not made but built. So this was actually an old ramp. So what they would do is, as they were building the pylon up, they would actually build the ramp, and it would get higher and higher so they could take the bricks in and lay them in situ. And then as they're coming down, they would decorate from the top and bring it down and decorate as they're coming down. And then they would take the mud brick away. But something happened during that time which stopped that from happening. Okay, so obviously they had to abandon the project, and this is why it was never really completed as such. Again, we've got lots of little statues, different sphinxes. Some of these things aren't in their original places. It's very difficult to know exactly where they were. In Luxor Temple, we do have a map on the wall, if you like, of exactly the layout of the temple and where things are, and that's how we actually know about the flagpoles and the standards, actually, because we have those actually on a image in Luxor Temple. This is how we know about this. Hi, Mary. So these sphinxes then, these are more complete. You can see the uraeus, or the snake, and the one statue there, which is amazing. Don't forget, by the way, guys, if you want to take screenshots as we go along, please do, and then please post them, just so we can let everybody know that they can come and join me every Wednesday at 8 o'clock for one of these tours. So, Cheryl, you're asking about discoveries. Now, these sphinxes used to stay in situ in the centre of the courtyard that we have here, but then they were moved later on in history, okay, and they were moved to the positions they're in now. they were put on a red brick base, and it was a friendly Egyptologist of mine who actually discovered when they lifted the Sphinx to clean, they actually moved 4 or 5 of the Sphinxes and took them to Tahrir Square in Cairo. And when they moved those Sphinxes, they realised they were getting damaged from underneath because they were put on red brick and the salt deposits were actually eating away at the stone, okay, of the Sphinx. So then a massive project came into being, and actually before we go on, before I tell you a bit more about that, just take a look at the lovely colouring that's on these Sphinxes. That beautiful red just in where behind the ears there, and if you really look closely you can see a little bit of yellow on there as well, and that's red and yellow ochre. So these would have been fully coloured, these Sphinxes, but in a very muted pastel colour, not these gaudy colours that you see in these 3D reconstructions that we see these days. So when they actually lifted these Sphinxes up and then took these brick bases away, and they were treating the Sphinx themselves, they actually found blocks of another temple underneath the Sphinxes. They'd literally been buried underneath, and they'd been the images on these blocks had actually been facing into each other. So a lot of them had been protected, and the colours had been preserved, and they'd been buried underneath the Sphinx. So they actually found a whole nother little temple that had been buried under all these Sphinxes, which I think is absolutely fascinating. The last time I was there, they were still being sorted out and being reconstructed and worked on and trying to put them back together. And I think what they will do is once they've done that, they will actually put them over in the open air museum in the temple, which I'm hoping to get some video of soon. So yes, there is still so much more to be found, and they're finding things all the time. So every time they do a clearing or they start digging underneath, I mean, can you imagine what they might find if they started digging under this temple? It's not been worked on this one, like they haven't excavated the grounds underneath here for many, many years. So there could be so much more to be found. We just don't know. So this temple here is to do with Ramses III, and he was famous for being murdered, and the harem conspiracy, which is one of my favourite parts in history because it's such a mystery. It's so mysterious. I mean, what on earth really happened in that time? We're not quite sure. So this is Ramses. We do know that he was murdered, and a judiciary papyrus was found, and this can actually is on display in the Turin Museum in Italy. It's an amazing papyrus because it lists over 20 people that were involved in the harem conspiracy to kill Pharaoh. We do know that they did have his way, because if you have a look at the scanned x-rays of Ramses III's mummy, you'll see that he has actually had his throat cut, which is not good. And also in the papyrus, it actually names his son as overseeing the court case. Now, these are images of Pharaoh in the Osiris position. So this is the god Osiris. So like a mummy, you can see his legs are bandaged together, but it's got the head of the Pharaoh there to say that he, to give him, celestial status. And this whole temple was actually dedicated. Now, this is kind of like a very small version of Medinet Habu. So if you've been on the Medinet Habu, or if you'd like to have a look on my YouTube channel after this tour is finished, you can actually see the Medinet Habu video, and that actually shows you the temple, a complete temple as well. And you'll see the similarities between this smaller temple and that one. Okay. Also, too, Ramses III he went on a bit of a building spree actually, and has got quite a lot of different little temples, as well as the big one at Karnak, Medinet Habu, dotted all over Egypt as well. So he really did go on a bit of a building spree. He learnt from his, Pharaoh Ramses II who came before him, and with his temple in Medinet Habu, and actually on some of the hieroglyphics, not this in this bit here, but on the outer bit, you'll see that they're actually really dug deep into the hieroglyphics, the lettering, dug deep into the stone, and this would be to stop anybody else usurping his temple. Nobody could do that. I mean, you can see how full of text this is and images. Some of the earlier hieroglyphics from some of the earlier pharaohs, they weren't done as deep, and they were done more as paintings, and they were usurped. They were plastered over and usurped by another pharaoh. Ramses III didn't want this happening to his stuff, so he made sure that, you know, if you wanted to usurp his temple, you would actually ruin the wall or the columns, and you'd have to replace them. So hence why a lot of people didn't bother. It would have been too time consuming and too costly. So it would have been easier just to build from scratch. You've got the pharaoh here making offerings within this part of the temple to the gods as well. Lots of offerings going on. Lots of little stories here as well. We could go on for hours about the different stories within this temple as well. And I always get creeped out on some of the places you go into, because it's like so dark when you go in, especially if you go to the part of Luxor Karnak Temple which has got this Sekhmet statue in the shrine of Ptah. You literally, it's completely pitch black. You turn the corner, there's this massive black granite statue of a cat goddess standing there. It's quite intimidating actually when you go in and see that. You can see the hieroglyphics are quite deeply cut from here as well, can't you? So what we're going to do now is we're going to make our way back out of this part of the temple, and we are going to go into the hypostyle hall, which is one of my favourite places to visit. It's got 134 columns that we have in the hypostyle hall, but we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get there. Again, we've got these wonderful mummified images of Pharaoh here, which again is a carbon copy of the one at Medinet Habu on the West Bank. I read that some of the structures underground were discovered using radar technology. Must be an ongoing thing. Yeah, there's stuff going on all the time. Different missions are coming up with different ideas on how to discover. We'll talk about it when we get to the obelisk, but what they found underneath the obelisk of Hatshepsut's obelisk still is really fascinating. And it's amazing that, you know, what would we find if we actually moved some of, I don't know, maybe the pylons out of the way and had a look underneath there, or the other obelisk, what would we find underneath those? There's so much left to discover, and also they built on top of, similar in the way that churches have been built today, where we've built them over ancient sites. In Egypt, it wasn't the fact that they were building churches on top of it, but they were just building on top of what was already there. So there's a statue there of Ramses II with his wife at his feet. And then these two walls here, they actually, either side on this pylon, actually have the names of all the children of Ramses II, which I believe is over 100 children, which is a lot. Now we're going into the hypostyle hall. There was a big cleaning mission going on here to restore the colours. They actually found a very clever way of being able to pull the dirt off, because there was literally thousands of years of dirt. You also see, if you look halfway up the columns, it's darker in colour halfway up, and then it's lighter at the top. Very rare that you'll find any colour on the bottom of the hypostyle hall columns, and only at the top, because somebody decided, I think it was the French actually, that they wanted to clean the hypostyle hall, so they flooded it with water. Absolutely flooded it with water, thinking this would help. It did not help. And actually, some of the pylons fell over, had to be rebuilt. Excuse me. And it flushed the water away, which was the colour away. Oh, excuse me. Oh dear, I'm having a bit of. Excuse me a second. Let me just have a drink. Right, so here in the hypostyle hall, these are all papyrus flowers. Some of them have got open capitals, which means they're like these ones here, which are open at the top, and some of them are closed. And as we go through, we'll be able to see the difference. Now, down the very centre of the hypostyle hall, they're all open capitalled columns. And they they also stand at taller than the others. So these are about 10 meters, and the other one's nearly 15 to 20 meters high. Okay, so the ones with the open capitals are a lot bigger. And it is said this is to do with the duality. So everything had to be like duality. These were actually built by Amenhotep III, which was Akhenaten's father, these open capitals, and the closed capital ones were actually built by Seti I and Ramses II. Okay, so different time zones, and they've like built on what's there. Now, this colonnade with the open capitals is very similar, if not identical, to the ones in Luxor Temple, and we do believe that this is actually signifying the phases of the sun. So I think there's 10 of these open capital columns, and they are representing the 10 phases of the sun. Where in Luxor Temple, it's actually the phases of the moon, and it's closed capitals. So here we have, you can see these beautiful, beautiful colours. I mean, we're going to have a bit of a close-up here. You can see the name of the pharaoh, that's Amenhotep III up there. But these fabulous colours, all from natural composites. So you have lapis lazuli, you have red and yellow ochre, which is actually we've got the Valley of the Colours on the west bank of Luxor, which they would have got them from. You would have had citrine, you would have had all sorts of things. And all they had to do to make these colours was literally get these stones, grind them down. It's believed that they mixed them with egg white and water, and then got it to a thick paste, and then made them into circular discs like you'd find in a child's painting set today. Dry them out, and then when you wanted to use the colours, you would rehydrate them, and then you'd use them. That's how you would write your hieroglyphic text on your papyrus. I'm sure doing the bulk load of the big colours like you see on the walls here would be a little bit different, but same principle would be used. And we believe that they have lasted so many thousands of years is because it is natural composite with no chemicals used. So this is why it has lasted for so long. I do love it when we walk through this particular temple, and the way the light hits, or the light shines through here, would be amazing. There has been talk about, look at the colours there, isn't that amazing? There has been talk about putting a false roof over the top of here, just to protect the hypostyle hall a little bit, because obviously all these colours are exposed to the sun. Even though, having said that, it shouldn't matter too much if they've lasted 2,500 years. I'm sure they will last for another 2,500. Now you look at these, and it doesn't, when you see these reconstructions, they just do not look the same, do they? They just don't look like they would if you did a reconstruction or computer-generated reconstruction. The ones that we all see on the generated reconstructions look terrible, but these look wonderful, I think. Now, don't forget, this tour today is free, but if you'd like to buy me a coffee, please do have a look at the link that I've just put in the chat there for you, and you can do it that way. Also, all the upcoming tours that I've got will be posted in there, and also on the live stream Facebook page, live events Facebook page, that is run by the lovely Annette there, and Lynn. So have a look at their calendar, and all my tours will be in there too. So we are coming out of the hypostyle hall now, and we are going, well, what we're doing is we're stepping back in time and then going forward a little bit, okay? So now we're coming to these fantastic obelisks that we have here. There would have been about 6. The first one on the right-hand side, that is to Tutmosis I, and the second one is to Hatshepsut, who was a queen who became pharaoh, who ruled at the same time, duality ruled, or co-regent ruled with Tutmosis III. Fabulous, fabulous obelisks. You will see here sometimes when you go walking around, the guide saying, they tried to erase Hatshepsut out of history, which, yes, that somebody did try and do that. I still believe that it was a grandson or step-grandson that did that, but you have to log into a tour for me to tell you all about that another time, because there's way too much to get into to go through all that tonight. there was a wall that was surrounded the obelisks, but you've got to remember these temples were enclosed. They were totally enclosed because certain parts of the temple weren't supposed to be seen by the common people. Only Pharaoh and the gods were allowed to see them, and the high priests. So when we look closely at the obelisk, which we will see closer up shortly as we get closer, especially Hatshepsut's one, you'll see it's more decorative at the top with a lot more hieroglyphic text at the top than there is at the bottom. At the bottom, there seems to be more like writing, whereas the others seem more illustrated towards the top. So that's because that's the bit that was poking out and that could be seen. The bit at the bottom, you couldn't actually see that bit. Okay. So it was only important text that needed for the gods to be able to read that. Now, the one thing that I find absolutely fascinating was I was watching a program, minding my own business, and it was on Karnak Temple, and a French mission decided that they wanted to see if there was any offering deposits at the base of the obelisk. So they started digging around and they found a little cartouche with Hatshepsut's name on, which is amazing. It made sense. It's Hatshepsut's obelisk after all. But what they weren't prepared for was the fact that they found a whole statue underneath the obelisk. The statue was dedicated to a king or pharaoh of, I think it's the 12th dynasty. And it's a double statue. It's an alabaster statue. It's a double statue. Unfortunately, they had to rebury it underneath. They managed to take lots of photographs and they had to rebury it because as they were digging underneath, it started to destabilize the obelisk itself, and they were terrified it was going to fall. So they had to quickly go in. They rummaged around to see if there was anything else under there. But what they did was they actually reburied it again because it had been there for so many centuries, thousands of years anyway, but they didn't want to destabilize the whole of the obelisk by taking this statue out. Some people say that Hatshepsut was punishing whoever the statue belonged to. My theory on the whole thing is because the obelisks were actually meant for to be able to take the name of the pharaoh up to the gods. Okay, so the pharaoh's name would go up to the gods into the heavens, and you've got the needle point at the top, and that would literally lasso onto the sun, and that would help take you over into the afterlife. And I do believe that Hatshepsut was possibly taking this pharaoh into the afterlife with her because he actually co-regented with his brother, so there was some duality between what she was doing with her stepson and the fact that he was actually ruling side by side with his brother. So I think there's more to that story. I think she possibly respected this pharaoh quite a lot and decided that because he hadn't got any temples or anything in his name in Egypt anymore, for whatever reason that might have been, or little, she decided she wanted to take him into the afterlife with her and buried his statue underneath her obelisk. So now we're coming into the Holy of Holies, and as I said, Karnak was dedicated primarily to the god Amun. There are three gods, the Theban triad here. So Theban triad meaning three. So you have the god Amun, the goddess or the wife Mut, and then we have the son, which was Khonsu. Okay, so this part here is dedicated to the god Amun. Or these are statues of Tutankhamun, King Tut, as dressed as the god Amun, and that's his wife next to him there. Lovely, lovely shrine this. Now this one is actually more modern. I say modern, it's Ptolemaic, and this is the Holy of Holies. It would have had a royal bark or royal boat in there, and it would have had the statue of the god Amun here. This was the holy sanctum. The only people that could come in here was the high priest and also Pharaoh. They're the only two that were allowed in here, okay? The one thing I find absolutely amazing about this is the carvings that you find everywhere. Now, the carvings, if you think, this is red granite. It's one of the hardest stones to work with because it is so solid. Yet, they managed to do it. They managed to work in it. And you've got these very fine hieroglyphics everywhere. I mean, every inch of it is carved, and it's like you make one mistake, you've ruined the whole wall, quite literally, or that whole piece of stone. So yes, they could sand it down and start again, I suppose, but I mean, you can see from that very little mistakes were made. And then you have in the ceiling, have all the stars. It's just incredible. Again, full colour, the blues and the yellows and the whites and the reds, just absolutely stunning. It always made me laugh that every time I go and do these tours, I get a really bad neck ache because I'm looking up so much into the sky. Again, looking at those obelisks from the opposite direction, and now we're going to go round to the back of the temple itself. So again, we are going back into the older part of the temple as we get around the back. This again, a bit Ptolemaic out this way, but then what we're going to do is we're going to go right out the back, and we're going to the part which is dedicated to Tutmosis III. Got some Sekhmet statues there along the way, which I always find absolutely stunning. They are stunning. I love them very much. They're very, very nice. And we're making our way out to the part of the temple which is called the Achmenu. Achmenu, meaning beautiful place. Now, this was actually built by Tutmosis III in the 18th dynasty. Now, Hatshepsut had some buildings around here as well, but her name had been scrubbed out. There's the Red Chapel that we had, but that has now been reconstructed and is in the open air museum. And we have another little part of the temple that was dedicated to her as well, but unfortunately her image has been taken out completely from there. Now we go into the back, into the Achmenu here, and you'll just see the colours. Again, you'll see the different styles of the way the hieroglyphics are always changing. They were always changing all through history, okay? So you had lots of different hieroglyphics going on all the time, and they are always forever changing, which wasn't a bad thing. It meant that we are now in our day, we're able to date the places and bits of ostraca or bits of hieroglyphics just by the way the hieroglyphics are actually written. So and the design of the pictures as well and how things were drawn will tell you very, very much how what dynasty it is from, okay, or which era it's from. So as we go into the Achmenu, you'll see as we go on there is an image at the back. It looks like the statue has been decapitated and had two of the gods at either side decapitated as well. Not very good. But if you really look closely, you'll see that it is actually in the sign of a cross. So a cross has been made out of a statue which had Tutmosis in the middle and the two gods either side of him, or god or goddess, I'm not quite sure, but gods either side of him. Why? Because this part of the temple was actually made into a church, and we'll be able to see where they'd actually superimposed reliefs of saints up on the walls or up on the columns, but it's quite funny how that was relatively new, really. Can you see that cross at the bottom there? That was relatively new in design, but the old colours from the ancient temple are starting to shine through and overtaking these images of the saints, which I find absolutely fascinating. So you can see from this image, can you see very distinctly that that statue has been made into a cross, and it was the body of the pharaohs in the centre there. That would have been Tutmosis III, and then either side you would have had the gods, and we're presuming it's the gods anyway. Unfortunately, that has been completely wrecked by the Christians at the time, who made it into like an altar or church, an altar in the church. Again, in here, you've got some amazing colours, absolutely vibrant colours in here. It's just beautiful. Now, as we come here, I will show you and see if you can actually spot the saint up on the column. It's like a limestone and sandstone. Can you see it? On the left-hand column there, can you see the saint? Let me know if you can see it. It's quite distinctive with the figure of a person and then the halo above the head. Let's get a bit of a closer look as we go in. There you go. There is the saint there. And then we've got another one over here somewhere. There you go. There's the other one. But look how those are starting to fade into the background. Absolutely fading away. Hardly anything left of those, unfortunately, because of the it's literally the old colours are starting to come through. I find it fascinating. Now we're going into another really, really fascinating part of the temple, and this bit we call it the Botanical Gardens. I'll tell you why when we get there. If you've got any more questions, do ask, and I will try and answer as many as I can. No, so this is called the Botanical Gardens. And as we go around, you can see lots of different things. So we've got seed pods here. And then different kinds of birds, different kinds of animals. It's just incredible. Lots of different birds here. So as I said in the beginning, Cheryl, I'm not quite sure if you were here when I started talking about it, but the stones that you're seeing, it's sandstone, and it was actually, most of it was quarried from Gibel Silsila in the south. It's nice and soft and pliable, so it's actually quite easy to use, as well as some limestone as well. And then the harder bits are granite. Now, from these images that we've got here, we were able to cross-reference what kind of birds were around in the 18th dynasty to what we have today. So you have ducks and geese and ibis birds and vultures and falcons and kites and the papyrus flowers and fruit trees and all these things. We were able to look at all these, and we were able to see what kind of vegetation and animals that they had and birds they had at that time, which I find absolutely fascinating. It is said that, and I never found it, unfortunately. I'm sure I just wasn't looking hard enough or didn't spend enough time looking at it. There's supposed to be like an aquarium bit as well, so we could see what was actually in the Nile at the same time as well, which I think is just incredible. So now we're going to go to the last little bit of the tour. Now we're going to go out the back. So this is like all the way to the back of the temple, and we have over. If we were to keep going down, unfortunately, we weren't able to go to the very back when I recorded this, but you can actually go. I think you probably will be able to go there now because they're doing they were doing some digging out there. So to answer your question again, Cheryl, it'd be quite interesting to know what they found there in subsequent years. I guess I missed most of this. Don't see it on the calendar and didn't get any notice. Oh well. Sorry, this will be on repeat at the end. So after the tour is finished, it will save. So you'll be able to go back into lives or past lives. Sounds a bit wrong, isn't it? Past lives in history and rewatch. So don't worry, it is there for you. Twitcher, you see. This little temple here at the back, that is actually dedicated to Ramses II. He's got everywhere, but don't forget he did also usurp an awful lot as well. So yeah, he was usurping all sorts of things. Now, interesting which I'll tell you about when we get there, about, excavations and things. There is still an awful lot of excavation to be done in Karnak, actually, because not all of it has been excavated. Laurie, we had a little bit of trouble with my tour. For some reason, it went missing off the calendar. That's happened a couple of times to my tours, but we are going to be keeping a closer eye on it. So do keep a look out on the calendar. If not, I'll just post in the chat now. This link here will take you to my Buy Me a Coffee page, which also has my tours listed as well. That's in my Egyptian ones and also my UK ones as well, or wherever I am in the world when I do the tours. Now, don't you find it fascinating that every inch of the temple is just covered in writing and images? There's not a bit that has been left untouched, which I find absolutely amazing. Now, what we're doing is we're coming up to the sacred lake. All temples would have had a sacred lake, whether it be big or small, but Karnak's is very unusual because it's the only one still with all of its water. You could still use it. Oh, thank you, Cheryl. That's really kind of you. Thank you. So, this was a representation of the primeval waters, because it said that the earth or the world was created by a mound rising up out of the primeval water, and the first gods then creating from there. Okay, so this is a representation of that. What I do love about this, when you look into it, look at the reflection of the temple. So you have that's the gate for Horemheb over there. And the interesting thing about that, actually, let me just pause the video. Now, you see how a lot of that pylon in the distance is missing, okay? So it's like the whole bit in the middle has been eaten out. It looks like Pac-Man's come along and has eaten a big chunk out of the middle. Now, that pylon, or gateway, if you like, was actually built by Horemheb. Now, the interesting thing about that, now we all know that our guy Akhenaten was not very popular. And not only, did female pharaohs seem to go missing out of history, but also Akhenaten went missing out of history because nobody liked him either. Okay. Interesting fact about this one, though, is they must have feared destroying things too much or taking it too far, because Horemheb actually used the stones. Now, Akhenaten was clever in the fact that he was able to be able to move the whole centre of religion of Egypt from the capital of Thebes, which was there in Luxor, to Amarna, which was further north, okay? And to be able to build the buildings that he did, he used a lot smaller stones, okay? So more easy to carry and be able to build quicker, okay? So that's how the Amarna period differed from everywhere else, and then later on it went back to the way it was again. Now, Horemheb actually used a lot of these stones on the inside of his pylon from Akhenaten's temple in Karnak. Okay, so they took it from there and they put it in Horemheb's pylon and then used the bigger bricks around it. So over the years, they've emptied out the pylon of Horemheb, and they have been trying to paste together all the Akhenaten things so they could possibly in the future recreate that part of the temple, especially if they can figure out whereabouts it was. They do believe that it was over, we're looking at the temple front on, where we've just come out of the Achaemonu. Actually, instead of going right, which we did, we'd go left, and they believe that it possibly was over on the left hand side there somewhere. It does, doesn't it? That's quite funny. H for Horemheb. That's very clever. I like that, Matthew. That's very clever. Well spotted. Didn't even occur to me, that didn't. Absolutely not. And at the very, very furthest part away, you can actually see the temple of Khonsu. Khonsu was the son of the god Amun. So there you go. We are nearly at the end of the tour now. So just looking back, we have the gateways there. There is so much more that I still have left to video. I mean, I still want to go back and do so much more. Because I could actually do a whole 2-hour tour of this particular temple, just getting into all the nooks and crannies. Now, as I said to you at the beginning, and Cheryl was asking about, digging up in Egyptology. Can you see over there to the left-hand side of the screen? You've got like what looks like an earth mound. Now, over there is where the quarters of the priests and priestesses were. Okay, that's where their living quarters apparently used to be. And they haven't excavated all of that yet. So there's all of that to be done. So we could find some living history over there from the priesthood and the priestesses as well. So still, I mean, I would, oh God, I'd give my hind teeth to be able to go and dig over there. I really would, because it would be fascinating what they'd find. The problem is with Egypt, you can't just go, I want to dig over there, because there's still so much to excavate on the bits that have already been excavated, if you like, that you can't get it's very rare that you will get permission to go and excavate a new bit, especially in somewhere like Karnak Temple. So what they do is they go on rotation. They say, right, you can go and dig out this bit first and then that bit later. Sorry. Oh, the coughs this evening. Oh dear. Oh, not enough water again. Excuse me. Any chance of rerun of the balloon ride? Yes, Cheryl, definitely. I will do that in the coming weeks, and also two of the paragliding. No, Tut isn't Hansuno. Or so there you go. So yes, awful lots left to do. Sorry about my coughs there. An awful lot left to do. So much still to see in Karnak Temple. I would just love to go back now and just go and see what they have. Possibly, I'd like to go towards the end of this year if I can. If not, it will definitely be the beginning of next year, where I'm running a tour out there with anybody that wants to come with me. So that is the fabulous temple. Good. That is the wonderful temple of Karnak. One of my favourite sites to go and wander around. I love the paragliding as well. I absolutely miss it. It was fabulous, and one day I will do it again. The paragliding over the pyramids is still on my bucket list of things to do. So if I go back sort of like this year or next year, I will definitely be trying to time it when they're going to be doing that as well. So that'll be really exciting. Also, I want to go and see the gem now it's open fully. So that would be really cool to go and see. So has anybody got any questions they'd like to ask me before we wrap up this evening's tour? Do let me know in the comments there. I shall hang about for a minute or two to see if I can answer any more of your questions. Don't forget also, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on live events on Facebook. Also too, you can follow that link I've just posted in the chat, and that has updated tour dates for things that are coming. I have a load more to put on. I might do some impromptu tours over the next 4 days, because I will be going to Wales tomorrow evening. I'm going camping. And then we will be going and doing possibly some tours there, if I can actually get some reception. How are your kids? They are very well, thank you very much. One's nearly finishing uni very, very soon, and the other one will be starting in the military soon. So that's exciting. And how is the lovely Sam? He is doing very, very well, thank you very much. And playing paddle at the moment, or it's finished now, and probably having a well-deserved beer down at the club. So yes. Yes, Wendy, some very happy memories there. Some very happy memories, especially when you guys came over and we went off and did all the shenanigans that we did. I miss the desert. I do miss the desert very much. So guys, thank you very much for joining me this evening. It's been my absolute pleasure. I'm going to go before I start choking again. Um, do you have a death wish, skiing and paragliding? Yes, yes, I possibly do. You know me. Well, you know what? I went so long without being able to do anything. A lot of you know me from the Hago days where I would just go literally, galloping through the desert, walking for miles, taking you on these fabulous tours, not thinking anything about, walking from like 3 or 4 kilometers for a tour. It was absolutely fine. To being able to practically being a cripple. And for a year, I went from being very active to not being able to do anything. So I have had a brand new hip put in my right side, completely brand new thing. They replaced everything. So when I went to see the surgeon and I said, "Oh, we're going to shave a bit off and reconstruct a little bit. What we're doing?" He went, "Absolutely not. You either live like this forever, or we take it out and put a new one in." So there was no choice. It had to be done. So I'm starting to get back up on my feet properly now. And it's quite funny because when Sam originally met me, I was on the downward slope with my hip being really bad. And he didn't get to see the shenanigans of moi until just recently. So yeah, he's starting to get the idea now that I might not be normal. I miss my beautiful horses too, Cheryl, every day. Wish I would have thought to so much taken. I watched a lot of Hago tours and they were all oh, thank you. Mary, just subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, and then you'll get notifications when I post new videos. As I said, if you want to join my membership, subscribe to my channel. You can do that. I'm going to try and figure out how to do it through YouTube because it might be easier. But if not, you can do it through Buy Me a Coffee, and then you will get the first dibs on videos of that I will be doing. So the first one that I'll be going live with, or going to my subscribers, I should say, will be you'll get a week's viewing, first view of the Ramses the Great's exhibition in Battersea. So that will be going on there for you. I will be changing descriptions and things, so I will get that all sorted, and you'll make it very transparent and clear how I'm doing things. But again, your continued support means the absolute world to me. I miss this so much. I do really enjoy it. I am trying to find a little bit of a niche for myself here in the UK with history that I actually enjoy. It's been a bit of a thing, really, because it's like I don't want to do the same thing as everybody else. I want to do something different, and I'd like to just take you on adventures with me. That's all I want to do, so I can show you the places I like to visit and things that I like to do, and find a bit of history when we're there. So hopefully I'll be able to do that too. But anyway, I'm going to stop coughing again. Sorry. On that note, I think I'm going to say goodnight. Thank you very much for coming. Dear me. Somebody's evil eyeing me somewhere, I reckon. So thank you very much for coming with me this evening. It's been my absolute pleasure as always. Again, thank you very much for your continued support. Do check out the Facebook live events and their calendar for up and coming tours that I have coming on. And also do check out the link that I posted above and again here for you. That's my Buy Me a Coffee page. And it has in the extras part or shop, I can't remember if I put shop or extras, it has all my live tours and when they're going to be coming up and the links to those as well. So thank you very much, guys. It's been my pleasure. Until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful evening. And much love to you all. Thanks very much for coming and see you again next time. Bye for now.